for Gratitude podcast here at 2218, where I'm going to directly get into talking about donations. If you're able to donate to the club, please do. We will be putting links up there. Cheryl's always on top of doing that, and I believe Eric will too. It's at the top. You can go to the website. This club could definitely use the help. We got the Ride for Recovery coming up here. That is right around the corner on the 26th of this month. Like, it's going to be a blast. Tons of bikes, tons of camaraderie. There's activities going on all day. We're going to be running the show live all day, or as long as I can handle it. People who are going to be coming from the audience, hopping on the show. There's going to be a bunch of stuff going on that day. Please come on down, support the club. Anyone you think could have a fun day, bring them with. We'll talk a little bit more about it later. I'm going to promote the Ride for Recovery again. And it is Pride Month. And with that said, we do have Pride Recovery Okie coming up. That is on the 25th of June. That would be the day before the Ride for Recovery. And with that said, every Friday night we do Recovery Okie here at 2218. So just come to the club. This club is awesome. It saves lives. It helps the community. It gives back. There's spots for volunteering. Come on down, volunteer. There's all sorts of that good stuff happening here. It is a club that never closed down. It's the world's longest running Alano club. There's a lot to be said about that. So I will touch back on this subject of 2218 a little later on. Gosh, I'm kind of getting this like, oh, it's the fans. That happened last week. I'll turn them off here in a minute. I'm hearing that little So, also, this is an interactive show. With that said, the interactive show means, did we just lost some power here? Ken, I think there we go. We're good. Interactive. Share this show with anyone you think could benefit from some recovery. Anyone you know. On that same note about the club, there is a young person's meeting starting here, and I bring that up because when I say share this with anyone you think could benefit from listening to some recovery talk or just a new way of living type of talk, just share it. Share it. The more the merrier. This whole thing works with networking. The community comes together. Like John says to Mary, who says to Bill, that says to Tom about, I heard about X, Y, Z, and the word spreads. Like, this meeting over here, that meeting over there might fit you best. It might fit him, her, this, that, the third, about treatments, all that stuff. Like, we network to get those answers. So this is interactive. Please be interactive. Post questions. I did put my phone number in the chat. If you would like to have a question read and you want to keep it anonymous, just directly message me. I'll put my number again. What else do I want to make sure we get off my chest before we start? Ken is the co-host tonight. Ken W.
Yo, what's up?
With
Jimmy?
that said, I think we're popping. I just don't want to lose the computer. So, yeah, you know what? Just 86. If we end up getting lost tonight, I'm sorry. We're dealing with some power, ACs, and blah, 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 all that jazz. And we're good. This just got so much brighter, too, so that AC jazz. I want to real quick apologize to the three of you because on Facebook, I went to, when I shared about who's going to be on the show tonight, I tagged you guys. And it came up with your full name. So I'm sorry I didn't get like permission beforehand about putting your full names up there. I apologize.
All good.
Someone told me about a half hour ago. They're like, Tim, I thought you couldn't put full names down. Well, I accidentally did, or blah, blah, blah.
We recover out loud.
That's how we do. But just know your anonymity is safe when you come to a meeting. We don't put your info out there. Mm-hmm. That's the whole reason. Like, we want to put I'm okay with being on videotape for this, but the message could get mixed with outsiders thinking that they come to a meeting and then they're going to be on camera or someone's going to say their name. That's not how it works. This thing is, your anonymity is secure. What happens in these rooms, they stay in these rooms. That's like the big benefit to this program. Ken W., Say hi. Talk to me.
What's up, Timmy? How you doing today?
I'm good. How was your week?
Busy, hot, real hot.
Yeah, I was outside too.
Steamy hot.
Yeah, well, I know I'm a guy who could not benefit from being outside and shedding some pounds.
Well, I think shedding some pounds in the summertime is good, though.
That's what I mean. Like, I can't complain. I'm not complaining.
You can actually fit in your clothes again.
I'm still a few pounds before that. There's a recovery thing and fitting in clothes. But to let the audience know, this is that point that Tad and I tried to get started a few weeks back as hosts. We're going to check in and just kind of tell you how our weeks went. That way, when we get into the conversations with our guests, it stays with our guests. So that's why I was asking Ken, what's cracking with work? Did anything happen special for you with work this last week?
Yeah, well, I got a new vehicle, kind of.
Tell me about it.
No, I don't want to talk about it because it's just a work truck. So
It's not a big deal?
it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, the most big a deal, I went to a meeting tonight, and I got to share a little bit tonight, and that was probably the best thing about it.
That's
You know.
See, when I get up and walk away, you got to keep filling the time.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I was giving him some light there. But yes, to me, from the outside looking in, earlier, I know you got 70, 80 years of recovery or something.
No,
You got a ton of recovery, though. Like, you're over that 20-year mark. So,
Not yet. Coming up on it, though.
20? What are you at, 17?
19.
Yeah, hey, that's awesome. Nothing to shy at.
But there is things in recovery that happen that are blessed because of recovery. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I got a good job a couple months ago, and things are just popping. And I guess when I figured out a long time ago, when things are starting to be good in recovery, I have to be on my guard.
Right. Right.
Because then I could slip, or things get too great. You know.
I understand.
It
yeah.
gets too hard sometimes because you think you got it. And
You've always said that. Like, that was one of the things you used to always say when we worked together a while back, and I was dragging you to a lot of meetings every day for lunch. We'd go to those meetings, and you would say something along the lines of, when there's not a problem in my life, I start getting a little nervous because I would look at it as like, you're expecting there to be problems, but you didn't word it that way. It was more or less like you had to be on your guard.
When you have no problems or not struggling when I have no problems or struggling with recovery, I have to be on guard.
That's good, though. From trial and error, 19 years, you learned.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago. If I'm happy in recovery, I have to be on guard.
See, that could be it was a mixed message when I first heard it, because I'm hearing like, well, you're happy, so now you're worried, but I strive for happiness, so it could be kind of twisted if you don't know, but I asked. That's why. So congratulations on the new truck. That's, for me, the outside looking in, that's a good feat. Your other truck was a piece of crap, but it worked. A to B. It just started looking, like that Sanford and Son look, but I know it worked, and it got you A to B and made you money.
Yeah, and that's the key. It doesn't matter what you drive,
just as long as you got something to A to B. I understand, and make your money. So congratulations on that. That's a good accomplishment through my eyes. Myself, been working outside, been going good. Things are great. Anything else you want to add before I get the show started?
No, let's get into this stuff.
Okay. With that, last thing I'm going to tell you, kids and boys and gals out there in listening land, is share this with everybody you can, and hit that like button if there is the thumbs up guy, that little guy down in the right corner of your screen. Interactive, please post questions. That's how we get outside of ourselves as other people presenting questions. With that, let's, Tad's gone. He'll be back. That's why Ken's here filling in. We're going to chop it up now. With that said, right across from me, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Melinda. I am an alcoholic addict.
All right. Welcome, Melinda. And to my right?
My name is John Bryce, and I'm an alcoholic.
John Bryce. Thank you guys both for being on the show. It was last minute. I reached out to them yesterday and asked if they'd be on the show, and they stepped up. So which one of you two want to take a topic and we get started? It's up to you guys. It's your show. I'm just a conduit to the audience.
Well, we were just having a conversation about a new truck, and when we were out in the parking lot, I heard that we bought an extended warranty, and my question to the person that's sitting across from me is, like insurance, what are you putting in the bank for your recovery?
What am I putting in my bank for recovery?
That's exactly right. Yeah. When things get good, you've got to put it back. You've got to put it back in, because that's when you really need recovery the most. Is when I found.
Oh, wait, real quick. So what you're saying is that kind of the same as what he's saying? Like being happy, he's got to be on his guard. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's exactly
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So what are you doing for it, Ken?
What do
Because
I do
life is
for it?
Life is going to show up.
Right.
Life always shows up.
It always shows
Always
up.
shows up. But what I do is I have a spiritual connection to my higher power, and it's a strong one. And a person about 19 years ago named Jack W, and he brought me through the steps.
Yeah, I know Jack W.
Yeah, and he gave me a new light and told me that I didn't have to suffer anymore. And I did the steps with him,
Yeah.
and I did the work. Yeah, and there was another guy there named Barry, would tell me that
Barry E.
Barry E. Saturday night, we'd all go to a meeting on Saturday night, and he says, God's got a plan for you, and it's a good one. And I would never believe that
Yeah.
for a long time. But God does have a plan for every one of us.
Yes, he
But
does.
you just have to believe in it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference today, is I believe.
How long did that take you before you truly believe that God or your HP has a plan for you? What?
How long did it take?
I mean,
It took-
was there a specific time in your recovery where it clicked and you're like, I now realize I need this higher power?
I don't know.
Try to get at that question.
No,
with
I don't.
People.
I think it took a couple of years after going through the steps, and all of a sudden people started saying that you were changed. Because I remember when you first came in, and you went through the steps with our friend Bob. Yeah, and it's just all of a sudden you just notice a change in people.
Yeah.
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 If you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. You know the people that got it
Yeah.
because they talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it work for you on the first time there, John?
Oh,
Well, did Bob take you through?
well, how many first times?
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, I know. See, this is where
It worked the last time. Let's
there. Yes, just like you're only late to your first meeting.
Yeah.
Is that the saying?
Yeah.
You're late to every meeting, Timmy.
Yeah, but we're not talking about me. I'm the host. I don't have to answer. No, I'm joking. So that is a good question. I think that poses like a good topic too. Like, what have you put in your bank for your recovery? Like what are you prepping yourself for? It's not even prep, really. It's just at the point. I guess this question goes to everyone: is when we're in recovery doing this thing. Is there a point that you just realize, all right, shit, I got to start stepping things up or doing a little more, or like the last 10 years thing, your recovery aspect? Let's just say, I mean. It seems like it's been going okay, but life does show up. Do you feel like, okay, damn, I got to start doing more meetings? I got to find some more sponsees? I mean, is there a point in time where you're noticing, all right, I got to add some more to my recovery bank? Anyone?
So for me, I have got a young child who is about to be 4. So at the beginning, his dad wasn't around, and it was easy to bring him to meetings because he stayed in his car seat.
Right.
But once he got mobile and loud, my anxiety got the best of me, and I quit going to meetings. I quit being involved in the recovery world, and I was still sober, but I was working, I was going to church, and I was staying occupied with my kids.
So wait, real quick. I'm going to be a jerk. So you're like using your kid as an excuse not to go to meetings?
I was.
Oh, you do things like that? No, I'm
I
just
was.
joking. I'm joking.
I was. And did the other day.
No, I know. Inside
Try.
joke. I was just telling, matter of fact, Dustin, I was like, I think if you were like a co-host, we'd kill it and it'd be so funny. But the problem is we'd have too many inside jokes. And like the audience, that sucks for the audience because they don't know our inside jokes. And then maybe they want to know about it. But I'm referring to a conversation we had earlier where she referred to like what I just said about her kid. But okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so to elaborate on that, he asked me to be on the podcast, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to figure out what I can do with my kids, knowing damn well that my youngest was going to be with his dad. So, at the beginning of his young life, his dad wasn't around, and so once he got mobile and loud, I, quit going to meetings for whatever reason in my head, and I focused on, church, work, whatever else, and then a pandemic happened, and my world crashed around me. And I feel like that was the hardest moment up until my life right now that I had in recovery. I just remember how alone I felt because
Right when the pandemic hit, or like a month into it? Or?
pretty much right when the pandemic hit, because I had distracted myself with work and church and, all these things that were now taken from me.
Oh, you worked, I guess, most everyone's
And
job.
so legit,
Yeah.
I'm a hairstylist. So, like,
Oh,
we
shit.
were
You
shut
were out
down,
of work.
12
Okay.
weeks.
And churches were all shut down.
Yes.
Okay,
And so, I mean, that was, at that point in time, the hardest thing that I had ever went through in recovery. And I remember, like, somebody had reached out to me from Will Work for Recovery.
Yep.
And told me about this women's meeting, and I hopped on the Zoom, and that literally saved me. Like, reconnecting with women, getting back in, back to the basics. And,
I think there's a book called Back to the Basics.
Yeah.
but,
there is.
you know.
It's a pretty solid one.
Yeah. But so realistically,
it
that
took
jump started that Zoom
Yes.
meeting and connecting with those women.
With
that,
the women,
Okay.
and I've always been firm on women with the women, men with the men.
Okay. Yeah. It's
You
your
know?
everyone.
And
Okay.
so for me, that just brought me right back to where I needed to be. And like, it didn't help tremendously, but looking back, it saved my life. And, my recovery, my clean date is April 22nd. And I remember, like,
Of what year?
of 2015.
Yay.
Yay.
That's awesome. Shit.
Yeah. And
It's a proven
so,
program.
I had previously, just a month before the pandemic hit, gotten a new sponsor. And, like, I didn't feel like it mattered, my clean time. And she actually had set up, like, a whole, like, drive-by, like, clean time presentation, and all my important people showed up. People that I didn't even think would show up. And she's, it was the coolest thing. And that is what saved my recovery right then and there. And from that point on, I got reactive with the women, reactive in person, like, and now
In recovery.
like, I'm back to meetings, and when I don't come to meetings, I have people reaching out to me. And then my church actually started a meeting, Quest 180.
Oh, okay.
And so that was like the best of both worlds for
That's
me.
been going on for a long time, I thought.
Yep,
Quest
but
180.
I go to Anoka,
Okay.
the Anoka campus, and
Okay.
like, we were going to launch it. Actually, I think it was like supposed to launch May, and the world shut down in March.
But it has occurred. Now it's open.
And so now, now.
Do you want to plug that? Like, when is it?
Yeah, so it's Sunday nights at 7:30. There's a small group for everybody. We start out in
Is it a
large group.
women's?
So I actually run the women's meeting.
Okay.
But it starts out in large group. We do some worship. We do a teaching or, a 12-step or whatever that night is. Each week is something different. And then we break off into our small groups. And it's legit the coolest thing because there's something for everybody. I mean, whether
So
you...
it's spiritually based.
Yeah, and so like there's a women's recovery, there's codependency, there's sexual purity for the men struggling with sexual addiction, then there's the women's side of that for like the women whose men struggle.
Okay.
And there's a parents group for parents of children. And then there's adult children of dysfunctional families. You
So,
know?
like, all based.
Oh, I
Yeah.
fit into that.
Yeah, and so it's super cool, and that was really what really got me back hardcore going and getting active with working with women, and yeah, that has definitely been a lifesaver. And then, as of recently, with my grandma dying.
Sorry to hear about that, too.
Thank you. Yeah, that is my hardest thing that I was saying. Like,
Life showed up.
Life has shown up.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the way my last 18 months have went because, like I was telling you earlier, like, using hasn't been my solution. My mind hasn't went to, if I get high, this will go away. But my addict brain is telling me that, I need to be numb. I need to be on autopilot. But life is, I'm feeling these feelings. And so it's kind of funny because, like, Quest 180, I'm a small group director, and then I lead the women's group. And so right after my grandma died, I had told them, I'm going to step back. Like, I need to really take this time for me.
Did they let you?
They did, yeah. They were like, we support you, whatever you want to do. And I was like, okay, I need to stay on the director side of things because I didn't think that I was going to be beneficial to the women. I was like, I need to stay on the director side of things so that I can still have an excuse to
Right.
come, so that I'm still showing up. Because
She
if
put
I don't-
quotes up when she said excuse.
I did.
And Well, we're on radio.
Because
People can't
it's
see
going to
that.
save my life.
Right.
You know, I mean, and it's funny because I prayed really, really hard about it for a while. I mean,
Did you
after
get
I
the
told
Did you
them-
get the answer right away when you prayed?
I did. Actually, I remember there's a scripture where, you know, Jesus's body dies and he cries and he's of service. Like he stays of service. Like he stays with his people, even though like his buddy, like his good friend just died. He's freaking crying and he's still
So he
ministering to people. And
he
so
got even
that
deeper
hit me.
in.
Yep. And so that hit me like I need these women just as much as they need me. So I had somebody fill in that one night for me. And, you know, me and her went out to dinner and she's like, these women, like, they're bummed that you're gone, but they understand. And I came back and I'm like, listen, I don't know how much I can give you, but I can show you that I'm going through this and that it's going to be okay. You know, as long as I stay in my faith and I stay in my recovery, I'm gonna be okay, you know, like we are gonna get through this. And like I cry through every meeting, but like it's fine. Like I know I'm exactly where I need to be.
But isn't that kind of like what we were talking about earlier on the phone? I
Mm-hmm.
was really excited that you were going to come on because you told me, you know, Tim, lately, you know, things have been a shit show lately, blah blah blah. Not the blah blah blah, but it's kind of like what you're saying now is you went back in there to show these women like, look, I'm going through one of the toughest times of my life. But what we're doing here is working.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of taking a step back, you took 2 steps forward and got back.
Absolutely.
And like you're saying to anyone listening is more or less like for you, what works is get into more service versus pulling away when the shit hits the fan.
Absolutely.
Or
I
wait,
mean,
when life shows up.
when life shows up.
Yeah.
I mean, and life has shown up
Right.
tremendously. And like, you know, for me, like I've been through some grief situations. My son's dad passed away, and then less than 18 months later, I lost both my parents 21 days apart.
Yeah.
And that's when my addiction, I mean, that was in 2014, and that's when my addiction fell off. Like, I went hardcore. I abandoned my child with my grandma, who just passed away. And, you know, I went hard. And so that was in August, and by the time March or April came, my grandma went for emergency custody of him, and I was done. Like, I remember that day when I woke up. Like, you guys were just asking about, like, that God moment.
Yeah, I always
That
try to
day-
get that out of people.
That day that I woke up, like, I was supposed to go to court, and I woke up, and, like, everything felt different. And, like, up until that point, like, the amount of meth that I was doing, like, should have killed me. But I would stay up for 3 to 4 hours because I was so consumed with grief. And
So
so,
have we moved into our topic of grief now?
yeah.
Okay.
I think we've entered it.
Yeah, we've
And so,
entered it.
you know, the amount of meth that I was doing, it was insane. And I used to pray to God, like, can I just not wake up? Like, I can't pull the trigger, but can you just please not wake me up or give me a reason bigger than my grief to pull me out of this? And that was the prayer that I said every single night. And, you know, my grandma went for emergency custody of my son and obviously won. Like, they wanted a hair follicle test. And I was like, dude, I'm like 98 pounds, which is not.
You're like, take a look. I mean,
Right. Like, we all know the answer here. Like,
Right.
you know, and so I checked into detox. I actually had to get drunk to check into detox because they won't take meth addicts because it's not a
Right, I've
physical.
heard that. Yep.
And so, yeah, I got hammered off of like a shot and 2 beers, just tanked. And, you know, I got in, and like the way everything happened, it was such a God moment. And it's like, I even look back and I'm so grateful. Like, there's never been a moment where I'm like, okay, like, you know, this has been laid out so well for me that like I should probably just go back out. Like, no matter what life has thrown me throughout this whole like 6 years of my recovery, that hasn't seemed like a logical solution for me.
You just keep getting
Well, that's
deeper
good.
into recovery, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and it ebbs and flows for me. You know what I mean? Like, I had where I fell out, and like I came back 10 times harder because I do know like what is gonna save my life is staying in the rooms.
Right.
You know,
Like-
I've been around it for a while, and I've seen people with long-term sobriety just fall off.
Well, like John, do you agree? I'm not agree, but I've been to a few meetings with you, John. Like, and I told you even back. I think it was I was the what's the name of it? It's at SNL. I was the general or the guy who did the meeting, who was running it for a month. And at that time, that was like 2 years ago. I was like, John, every time you share, like I'm intrigued, and like I was like basically, you know, kind of ass kissing in a way. It was earlier recovery for me, but it was. I thought I needed to find like the 15-minute speaker for those meetings, and you were like, yeah, of course I will. Like, so I've seen you in meetings for like, you know, since the beginning of my meetings, since I started getting into recovery. So I don't know, stepping back or forward, but I know life showed up for you just in my past 4 years. Like, do you feel like kind of what she was sharing? Is that something you can relate to about just getting more into service or sticking around? Like, what's your thoughts on all that?
Well, I'm not going to start with what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with what I was.
Okay.
And, I started drinking seriously when I was 16 years old. And that was after I had to cut my 12-year-old brother down from a dog leash in my garage.
Grief.
Right? And within 180 days, my life changed. I turned from a 3-liter sportsman over to the best drunk and the best
At 16?
that I could be. Oh, yeah. And 2 years prior to that, I lost my father from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Right? And from that time at 16, let's see, I stopped drinking when I was 35 years old. So I suffered from untreated alcoholism for 20 years. Right? I've got more alcohol-related offenses than I have fingers. I think the department calls it amicable to public safety.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you're in that much trouble, there's a couple of things that the state of Minnesota does. One, they send you to treatment, and 2, they send you to jail. Right? Which I'm very familiar with both of them. Right? And even though treatment was there, and even though jail was there as in my mindset, treatment and alcohol, because of the state of Minnesota being early on and obviously a peon brain, that they were both the punishment phase of the trouble that I was getting in. Right? That's the way that I looked at it. Right?
Yeah.
So when all of that stuff was over, so was that. Treatment was done, jail was done, all that stuff, it was done, right? Because I wanted to do it my way, right? And through the age of 16 to the age of 35, it's kind of interesting. You do this when you look back through your life in your fourth and you tell your fifth step. But most of my alcohol-related offenses were in the spring, right?
Okay.
And in the springtime of when that incident happened with my brother, right?
That always crept them feelings.
Oh, those feelings. I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Sight,
Wow.
sounds, emotions, feels, all that other stuff, right?
Right.
And I really didn't understand what those feelings were, right? So I truly understand what the feeling of the bondage of self.
Oh,
Right.
step
You
3.
taught me that saying 3.5 years ago. The
So
bondage of self.
It's the bondage of self, and I didn't understand it, and I was restless, irritable, and discontent unless I could take a few drinks, right? And then that stuff would go away. Well, I'm an alcoholic, and what happens to an alcoholic that develops the phenomenon of craving? You're off to the races, right? So I have bouts of sobriety over and over and over again, but here I have this volcano of inner unmanageability that I don't have a solution for.
So you're telling us that you went in and out of the program for years?
Oh, for years. They do that when you have as many DWIs as I have.
Well, I've
Yeah.
got quite a few myself, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They send you to treatment, you have to go get your card signed, all this other stuff.
Well, yeah, I used to sign my card myself. You're
Me
not
too,
supposed to
but
do
with my
that.
left hand. in case
Yeah,
they-
yeah.
So,
it's
John,
not
with
right
those, at the beginning, when court was sending you, I understand basically, the PTSD, that time of year would come around, those feelings would come up, you knew what to do, drink it away. So you'd get in trouble because you went hard, apparently. Now, when they would send you to these treatments early on, was there ever a time when you went, you're like, all right, I want this. I think I'm going to get it this time. Or was it
Well,
all
of
right,
course.
shit, I got to go. I'll get it done with. I'll have a drink after.
Of course, but
So there was, of course, there was times you went and you're like, I want this.
yeah, and the book it talks about this.
Is that the actor?
It's the desire that you truly want to stop,
Okay.
right? but I don't want to take your solution for it, right?
I can do this my way.
It's this bullshit acronym, take what you want, leave the rest.
Right.
That's not for me, because I did that for many, many years, right? So, fast forward, and I'm gonna read something here out of the book, because I'm a book guy.
Yeah, I like it. Go ahead.
The idea that somehow, someday, he will control his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede in our innermost self that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently maybe, has to be smashed.
Smashed.
Smashed is a very violent action.
Yep.
Right, but there are 3 words in there that are to my main concern. One is obsession, one is illusion, and one is delusion. I had to fully understand all of those based on my 20 years, because that's the first step of recovery.
Understand what those words mean in their entirety, correct?
Well, an obsession is an idea that can't be overcome by another idea. I tried to think my way out of this. Anybody ever tried to do that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? You all would give me suggestions and say, nope, I've got another one, right? That might
Watch
work.
me.
That might work for you, but I've got something else, right? And then the illusion. What is an illusion? You ever seen a magician put a plane on the stage and then all of a sudden drop?
Gonzo.
It's the false appearing real, right? And how about a delusion? It's a false belief. I had to go through those 20 years and define all of those based on my first step of recovery. Where were my illusions, where were my delusions, and where were my obsessions? As soon as I started to do that, I could admit to my innermost self that I was an alcoholic. I knew I was an alcoholic, but to the innermost self is to my soul. What I think, feel, and believe is the precise definition of what my problem is, and has no bearing on my solution when it came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. That is my problem. As soon as the alcohol is out of my system, I was suffering from the bondage of self. And that is what I needed help with.
The bondage of self.
Because I could go for weeks, I could go for a year, but that volcano, that restlessness, that irritableness, that discontent would always be there. And it's a raging volcano inside myself. And I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to manage it. You told me
Manage it or deal with it? I guess is that the same thing,
both,
basically?
both,
Okay.
both. You know, and in these meetings I would go, and it was up out west. I was living out west at the time, and you know, I was a real smart ass back in the day. And I was going to this meeting, and they were talking about the higher power and the third step and all this other stuff, and, you know, being the smart ass that I am, and, you know, the intellectual that I always wanted to be, which I'm not. I said, I don't want what you guys have as it relates to a higher power. I just can't relate to that, right? But I can relate to Darwinism, right? Where evolution is all this other stuff, and, you know, thank God for these old timers, you know, and he says, well, young buck, we got a solution for you. But the solution is sitting in the chair over in that corner there, and when the meeting is done, you're gonna have the answer that you need. Meeting goes on, the meeting goes on, the meeting goes on, everybody says their stuff, they all start walking out, and I'm sitting over in the corner, and I, being as smart as I am, said, hey, I thought I was gonna have the solution. I said, son, as soon as you evolve into our way of thinking, you will have your idea.
What did you do?
I got pissed and said, fuck you,
Right. That's the go-to, yeah.
right?
Sounds like all of us.
So I didn't want what they had, right?
He was offering it for free right there.
Well, it's not, you know, I grew up in West Central Illinois, and I went to a gospel church, and really what it was babysitting for my dad's second wife, right? And I learned a lot about the Bible and all this other stuff. It wasn't that I didn't know that there was a God or that God existed. Our book talks about that in we agnostics, you know, and it says that deep down every man, woman, and child is they know the presence of God. They knew that, and I knew that was there. And I was on one of my stints, and they put me in the rubber room in the University of Minnesota, and I was telling this story at one meeting, and you know, Manny.
Oh yeah.
He says,
May he rest in peace.
I was working on that floor at that same time, and I was like, hey, I don't remember you, but, you know, so anyway, that's a small world, big city, small world.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, to get out of this rubber room, you had to give a fourth and a fifth step, and it was my first real true fifth step, and I really wanted to do it right. And they had an on-call priest, and I walked into the room, and I sat in a chair, and I told him my story.
No BS, all true, everything.
All true.
Let it all out.
Everything else. I told him about the 2 losses in my life, and
So you did a 4th step with the priest, or a 5th step?
Fourth and fifth.
yeah. To be released, you had to do that. I think some treatment centers do that too.
Yeah,
I've been to 1 or 2 that said you got to do a 5th step and all this other stuff, right? So I tell them the story, and I tell them the story about my father, and I tell them the story about my brother, and paraphrasing this man of the cloth, he says, "Well, I don't know how you're going to reconcile that your brother and father are in hell." So
A lot of faiths look at it that way when there's suicide involved or something to that effect. That hell,
well,
some faiths.
some face believe that, but my face stood up and punched that guy square in the nose, and I walked out, and my 5th step was done.
So you still got to leave the rubber room because you did the 5th step.
I did.
Or did you go back to jail?
I didn't go back to jail, but what I did lose is everything that you were telling me that I needed. I didn't want what you were preaching,
Yup.
because it went right back to that. I
Yup.
knew it existed, but I am not having your religion, I am not having your faith. If this is what
Yup.
you guys believe, I want nothing.
None of it.
I want
Yup.
nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. So I know the day that, I knew the day that what this program had for me left. So from that 18 to 35, what was gonna save me wasn't even at arm's reach. Because I didn't want any of it based on one instance.
One incident.
One instance, I know exactly
That's
one
all
of
we
it.
need.
So how many years after that did you
18 to
practice?
35. Oh, okay.
Yeah, 18 to 35.
Yeah.
Well, 18, you met with this priest at 18 years old?
It was 18 years.
So you practiced another, what?
So he did a
17
hell of a lot of
years?
research,
Oh,
like another
wow.
18 years of research.
Yes.
Was there treatments involved in there too?
Oh, yes, because there was many alcohol-related offenses, like I said.
Yeah. Yep. None of them worked because of why?
No.
Well, he didn't want what we had.
Well, I didn't want what you had, which was a spiritual solution, because I based anything that was spiritual or anything that was
You
God.
related it to what happened
Happened
at
at-
that rubber
What
room.
they said.
It was that icy intellectual mountain. I could not step from boat to shore.
Icy intellectual mountain.
So to fast forward to 35 years old and when you got sober, what changed then?
I had tried everything humanly possible. I was
Just like
so
it says in
I
that book.
I was so sick that the only place left I had to go was God. You know how sick you have to be?
Yeah.
Do you hear how
I've
he
been
said
there.
that though? And you know what? It's that moment of lucidity in your
Yeah.
brain where it's that whole thing of, I have an addict mind or I have an alcoholic brain, but I need to get sober or clean.
Or put a gun in my mouth.
My
Yup.
brain is sick. How is a sick brain going to make that decision? You have a
Yup.
moment of lucidity. You have that moment. There's a moment. It might be teeny, but you grab that moment, and like you said, there's nothing else left. You were down to a point of I fucking tried everything out there. Everyone said everything.
Except the program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I get it
That's-
is that
and
you
that's why
surrender.
That's why those 3 words, oh, well,
Yeah, that's-
I had tried everything, I mean, when you're sitting in county and you're facing felony DWI and your wife
Been there, done that.
has said, I'm not bailing you out anymore, you kind of resign yourself and fall on your knees.
Been there.
Yeah.
Yup.
Right.
Right?
Been
Yeah.
there.
And it did.
Yep.
And, you know.
Kind of kicked you right square in the head.
Well, you know, thank God that she did. And I was living out west, and I actually moved in with my mom. My mom sobered up at the same house where I said I have to leave, and I went and I lived with my mom, and I went to the place where she sobered up because I knew.
So your
that-
mom's in sobriety.
Oh, yeah.
Did
Oh,
you
I didn't know
grow
that.
up in the room?
I didn't know that either.
Actually, I don't want to say that I grew up in the rooms.
Okay.
But you knew what
My
it
mom was
was.
going to New Hope, Alano, and she was sending, and it was out the
The
old-
little yellow house.
the yellow.
That place
But
was
they would
awesome.
have, they would have Alateen or
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Al-Anon.
And it was-
Alateen. No, back
Alateen.
then, yeah.
I remember
so
that.
The way that the house sat, and there was the church, and there was a house down there, right? And they would talk about people drinking and all this other stuff. And I'm 12, 13 years old. I'm going, really?
Smoking cigarettes,
Really?
drinking coffee.
No, not at that,
he
not
was
at
just
that
still a
time.
little kid.
Not at that
Yeah.
time. I didn't pick up until after my brother died.
Okay.
You know, I was more into sports, and
Okay.
you know, it was. I just didn't get it, right? I just thought it was normal. You know, my father was an alcoholic. Everybody that was around me that was drinking, I just thought that was normal.
That was the
Yeah.
norm.
That was.
See, and
the
I can
norm.
relate to that too.
And then all of a sudden, somebody's telling me that that's not normal. Well, that's not.
all we've
That's
known.
not my experience.
Yeah.
So that's what you grew up around too?
Yeah, actually, my mom sobered up when I was 10. And so started bringing me to all of my meetings. And, by the age of 12, I was court ordered to go to treatment for my drinking.
Is it kind of like, and this I guess goes to both of you guys. I don't know if Ken has dealt with this. This is just another question. And I know that I'm not sure if you were done yet, but because I kind of cut you off and brought it to her. But now, the correlation I'm going to make, it might be way out there, but you know how like, a dad's big fear, you always hear about, like, they tell their daughter, I don't want you on a stripper pole. Like, his job, don't let her be on a stripper pole. And, of course, the harder they push, the faster they're on that pole. Now, is it kind of the same thing that you guys dealt with? The harder your parents are like, you need AA, or you're hearing it, getting it shoved down your throat. That happens with the religion a lot. You hear about people tend to go the complete opposite way. Like, was that how it was for either of you guys growing up here? I didn't know that, recovery was in your family. Your mom went to meetings. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, my mom was very much
You see the correlation I was making, right?
Oh, yeah. My mom very much was like, okay, I'm going to get you into treatment. Like, I'm going to bring you to meetings. I'm going to do all of this. And I was 12, 13, 14. I met my son's dad when I was 14. I was doing drugs by 14. And so I was doing meth by 14. And my dad was the complete opposite. My dad was like, sure, like, let's roll. Like, let's do this. I remember
Your dad was like, let's do this recovery or let's roll meth?
let's roll meth.
Oh, okay.
Oh, jeez.
I remember the first time, like, my dad had hit me up and asked me, like, can you bring some dope over? Okay, being the good little meth addict that I am, I think he meant meth. Well, he meant weed. And he's like, this works too. I'm like, great.
He wants to chill and you're bringing him some to the moon.
Right, so, that was just the opposite ends of the spectrum. And so it's like, I always had... And that was why when my parents died and all of that happened, like, I knew that the rest of my life was going to go one of two ways. Either I was going to die or I was going to find recovery. And I think that's why I went so hard from August to April, because, like, I had to get it all out of my system or I had to kill myself.
Like,
doing
at
it.
the time, you were really, truly thinking, like, all right, I have this time and it's go time. Like, you were really partying to get it.
So my mom passed away.
I'm banging back on that AC.
In August. And so for me, like, instantly, I'm like, I need to get to the rooms, but I don't qualify. For some odd reason, in my mind, I didn't qualify. And,
So I'm good.
I'm grateful for the way it all went down, because I needed all of that going hard to really surrender and get to that point,
Oh, it did.
So, yeah, I needed everything to happen exactly how it happened. Nothing happens in God's world by mistake, and I'm a firm believer in that. But, yeah, I knew instantly, like, I needed to get to the rooms to get my family. And, it's even crazier now looking at, because with my grandma's death, like, I've been leaning on you guys so dang much, it's crazy. And it's
that's what we
okay.
do in
And
this
that's what we do,
Like,
and
that's
that's
part of
okay.
this.
And it's cool to be in a position where, like, I know it's okay. Like, I know that, like, I can reach out and I can, reach out to anybody and they're gonna listen to me. They're gonna be there for me. I mean, and it's okay to fall apart too. And that's another thing that I'm not used to doing is like falling apart, because for so long I had the mentality like, you've got years of recovery, like you should be better. And so with this whole thing with my grandma, like it's shifted just my humility, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, like, hey, oh, I should say this on mic. I know, John, that I don't air out business, like, but I know you went through something pretty darn major a couple years ago with your family.
I did.
And at that point, the reason I know is because you were at meetings and you were around all of us at campfire meeting. Like, you were around a lot, and you had a lot of obligations with your family. Like, is that how it was for you too? Like, when things were getting tough, like you had to, I don't know about lean on, but be involved with your recovery more so than ever?
Well, this goes back to what we were talking about first. What insurance are you going to put in? Mm-hmm. And what illusions, delusions, and obsessions did I have? I had to know what all of those were, so I would know what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right? And when my brother died, something was said to him the night before by me to him. And the next morning I had to cut him down. That was and basically the police interrogated me for over an hour. Right? To them, something wasn't adding up.
Right. Oh, it's a crime scene
Then
in their
to watch
eyes.
my
always.
mother fall to her knees
Right.
to see her dead son laying in the garage put a fear in me that I kept. The cross that I held over that situation and what was said is the bondage of self that damn near killed me. Mm-hmm. That and many other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right? Alcohol will kill you slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Alcoholism is a very slow sloth death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You do not hear many people that pass away from
An
drinking
alcohol
to
overdose.
an
Yeah,
alcohol overdose.
Very far and few
Their
between.
body goes away, their mind goes away, and it's very, very painful.
Over a long time.
My grandpa died of alcoholism.
Oh, yeah, but over a long period of time.
Very,
Grandpa.
very, very
Yeah.
painful. Not only is it to the body, but it's to the mind.
Mind, yeah.
It's a very ugly way to die, right? And I was dying for 20 years. I was dying for 20 years. Barry E. used to say, anybody dying inside,
Yep.
right?
So in this incident of that memory, that incident, that is what kept you going.
Well, I'm getting to your question, Tim.
Okay.
Right? So I knew what not to do, right? And our family did go through some things where a man hurt my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very badly.
Yep.
And the day that he was arrested, it was a Tuesday, and I remember, and I was scheduled to take some men through a big book study. Some guys had asked me to do it. It would have been very easy for me to say, I've got too much life going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing that I did was go in there, and I started puking.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because those things that I held on damn near killed me, and I don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a fellowship around me that if you ask me how I'm doing, you better sit your ass down, because I'm going to tell you.
Well, that's good.
Absolutely.
Because I have to do that.
Yeah.
It's part of that delusion that I know doesn't work for me.
Honesty.
It could be honesty, right? I don't have the solution, but I can't carry it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what the fifth step is. It's a confession. And why do the Catholics confess? Because it removes that guilt. It removes that grief. It removes
Bondage.
all
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things
yeah.
born of self, puts it in the sunlight of the Spirit or the inspiration of God, and it's no longer a secret.
Right. Secrets kill.
A drastic self-appraisal is insufficient. It has to be with God and somebody else, right? And we do that later on in our 10th and 11th step. Pray for inspiration.
Yeah.
Is there something that we have to tell people? I take this stuff very seriously because alcoholism killed me, and it killed me slowly. I didn't die, but I felt like I was dead.
Right.
for a long time.
Well, and
For a long
you were
time.
dying.
I was
You were dying.
I was dying, yes.
And you made it through I remember when you shared about it, and I may have been one of the guys too who was right along board on board with the whole shit. That's a go to jail worthy type of reaction to what I'm going to do to this guy.
Yeah.
Like there was cheerleaders, not so much cheering you on, but like this guy, because at the time we were talking about, it was like didn't know if he was going to be going to jail. There was trials, there was all that type of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that it did a lot for my recovery, your situation, just to know what you were dealing with. And that show, just like I feel like the show does, when someone can hear other people's experiences, like what you went through and how you handled it. It just wasn't ever put into words. Like when Melinda was sharing about that, diving in deeper. But like you just said, you had a book study and you brought it to the crowd and you shared and got it off your chest.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there's one thing that I've learned over my time in these rooms is that our stories are the same, but the details are different.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. There is no scales of justice for grief. There is no scales of justice for shame.
Right.
All of those things born of self, I'm not talking about the catalyst that gets you there, because we all have a catalyst.
Yeah.
It all gets us back into what is that? It's the bondage of self.
Yeah.
And that bondage of self is a killer.
Yeah.
I
Every
know
time.
that about myself. I know that about my history. I've had to do all that. So what do I do? In the spring, I make sure that I have to work with other men.
So
I know what I didn't do. I can't do that anymore.
Right. You've got 20 years of proof what you can't
What I
do.
can't do.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And to think that I can is part of that delusion. It's the false appearing real. Right? That's part of the sickness. That's the part of the untreated alcoholism that I was suffering from. And I can't go back to that. So I have people that I work with, and that gets me through. Or I worked with sponsees over COVID, and we've got a big book study at a guy's house on a Wednesday night. It's more of a honing meeting. It's not 80 grit where you get down. It's more about 9,000 grit. Seriously, honing our program, and we're getting into it. We've been at it for a long time, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing that I don't go to meetings for the old timer. I go for the newcomer, because they are the ones that are going to save my life.
Yes.
That is what has that's what's worked. That's what's going to keep working, and that's why I keep doing it. I have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. I have my alcoholism is in remission. It's not cured. And it's in remission, and I've got as many days as I've got because of what I've been doing and not following the delusions and the illusions that I did for 20 years. I had to know what that was.
but somebody brought you through the book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So with kind of
Yeah, it's kind of like screwing for the first time. You fumble around, you don't know, I mean, when you seriously, when you try and do it, really it is,
Yeah.
I mean, you make mistakes, you do all of this other stuff,
Yeah.
it's clumsy.
sure.
But I think the key is you're
But you
doing
get
it.
better,
You're
right?
doing it. Yeah, practice. So like you I think you said something that's pretty important is with Narcotics Anonymous, they say the newcomer is the most important person in the room. That's a big part of what's in the readings even. So as an old timer, which you are, and I'm not talking about your recovery. No, I'm joking. No. So you said something I think is pretty frickin' powerful. I've shared about this before. Is sponsors. I've been in quite a few meetings where there's a lot of guys taking people through the books, and they when a conversation starts, a suit follows. So everyone's sharing about it and talking about problems with their sponsees and this and that. And I think it was Big Dave who said this. He's like, did you end up drinking over it? So taking someone through the book, it helped the old timers. Like the lifeblood of a meeting, they say, is the newcomer.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is for me.
and some people look at this like, all right, as an old timer, like I got to be there to give this to that newcomer. They're the most important. There's so many facets of a newcomer. That guy walking through the door could be saving the life of a guy with 20 years clean or sober. Like it gets overlooked a lot, I think. And there's times like you work with women, you work with men in the program. while you're doing this and taking people through the steps or, doing book work, it was said in a way I wish I could regurgitate the proper way, but did you ever drink over it? Either of you? Did you ever go back out over it? You don't. You helping this newcomer's keeping you sober.
Absolutely.
And I think it was more of a statement. I wish I could have turned that into a question
Well,
somehow.
there's a couple of names that you brought up, and I've heard their testimony as well. And my sponsor will tell you this: he was 5-8 years sober, and he was dying inside.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't
Yeah.
drinking, but
He's been on the show a few times.
but he was still suffering from untreated alcoholism.
Yeah.
Right? And that untreated alcoholism got him to what? To the book. To where the solution
Right back
is.
to where the solution is.
That's exactly right.
And
That's
he
exactly
keeps it.
right.
And what you old timers have taught me, and I take this with me. I used it today at work. This week was frustrating. Yeah, we're working in the devil's butt crack of heat if you're outside, and it sucked. And that led to a lot of frustrations, but everything was man-made. The frustrations came from me giving it that power, which Rick B was good about explaining that, I'm the one giving it the power.
Yeah.
It's sometimes easier said when it's 110 degrees and my material's not there and I'm on a rough. See, I'm justifying it. But with Bob, he was hosting last week. I'm not anonymity. I got to keep that clear. But the untreated alcoholism, we know the solution. And he's always telling me, Tim, what's the solution? If you're staying in the solution versus the problem, because with work, I can correlate it with work a lot. Matter of fact, I'm going to bring it to a question instead of just telling my shit. We talked about me earlier. And Ken, you've been a great co-host. You haven't said 3 words. So, how do you, staying in this, I was just bragging to someone about you saying, this guy, when you talk about let it go, Ken's the epitome of it. I've never seen him mad. I've never seen you upset. You let shit go that maybe sometimes you probably should be putting more juice into it.
But back to when we first started this, the names that I threw out earlier, Jack and Barry and all them old timers that a lot of us know, they made me read that book. I hated that book. 417 Acceptance. Whenever I had an issue or anything,
You'd call them with your problem and they'd say, read 417.
I call anybody with a problem because if I had a problem, they'd make me call 4 people a day because normally a newcomer does not want to pick up the phone and call somebody and tell them they're struggling.
Right.
Do you ever know, any one of you guys ever call anybody when you're struggling? When you're first coming?
Oh, wait, early recovery, I don't know. Everyone's different. Everyone's story is different, but I know what you're getting at and what you're saying.
I mean,
I do.
Page 417, acceptance. When I first got here, I was going through a terrible divorce like most of us normally do. And it lasted for 3 years. I lost everything. I finally took up and went to Florida. And I spent 3 years in Florida, 3 years sober, having fun.
Yeah, no, that's...
No, yeah, having fun.
Yeah, you can have fun in recovery. I have fun in recovery.
No, but I was in Florida and I was dying. Just like John said it a couple minutes ago, the bondage of self, just going through meetings, staying sober, dry drunk, like a lot of us are. She talked about it a little bit ago, going through, life happens. You go start working, you start doing this,
Yep.
and most of the time you hear in the program that somebody gets a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they stop recovery because of the boyfriend and girlfriend. How do you do that? I've done it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you got your own
done
answer.
I've done it many times.
Yeah.
It's life. Life happens on life terms. But I was in Florida and I was
God, I hate that saying.
life happens on life's terms. And well,
It's bullshit. No, life shows up.
Well-
Okay.
I hate that term because of this, and I hear this people, how's it going, living life on life's terms, especially in our rooms. And, when you suffer from untreated alcoholism for 20 years, you get very good at living life on life's terms.
even in
Yep.
sobriety, you give.
Well,
I mean, if
Well-
you're not working you're not doing the deal.
yeah, if you're not doing the deal,
Yeah.
drop it on him, Johnny.
Where I'm going is what I had to learn and what I try and bring my guys to is living life on their higher powers terms, which is probably one of the hardest things that I had to turn around. Right? Because living life on life's terms is easy for me. That's one of those That's one of those illusions and delusions that I had to smash. I had to give that up, and I had to focus.
Illusion or a character defect?
Well, it could be part of a character defect, right?
Quick question: is a character defect one of the 7 deadly sins? Is that the character defects? I've never
A
asked.
character defect is something that you found objectionable.
That I've found objectionable about myself.
That's exactly right.
Okay. It's a good definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in Florida.
We got a lot of guys that go around to meetings and pick up girls. They don't find it objectionable. I find it. I find it objectionable.
But you know
Right.
what? Deep down, I
I
think
find it objectionable, right? But that's for me.
that's your character defect.
They might not find it as objectionable. What I think, feel, and believe about their behavior
Yeah.
is a little bit different. And that's the difference.
That would be a subject for another 3-hour show.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're given that power.
But the
I mean, you
important
know,
thing is, I have to find it objectionable. Mm-hmm. That's the starting point, and then I can have God's help to help me remove that.
Yeah. Yep.
But until I find that it's objectionable, I'm just going to live life on life's terms,
hot
right?
shit. Oh my God! Real quick side note, you guys. So check it out.
Pop-Tarts.
Melinda gets nervous. She said she gets nervous. Like, so what she does
got
is eat, and she's like, must never get
teriyaki,
nervous. She's
beef
not
jerky.
heavy. Yeah,
What are
beef
they?
jerky.
What are these?
We've got you know what? Those are crazy. They're
Buttered
They're so
popcorn.
butter popcorn jelly
Jelly
beans.
beans.
And they taste
Go
like butter
yogurt.
popcorn.
She's got 6 waters in front of her.
Well, I brought water, but she has marshmallows. She's got Pop Tarts. Them were fired pistachios, but
Anyways, well, getting back to this Florida thing, I was down there and I was there for 2 years sober, but I stood up in a meeting and asked for help and nobody helped me.
it's an isolated incident.
Is it?
Yep. It happened at one point at that time. That's isolated.
Or maybe it was a sign from God to tell me to go back home.
Could be.
Could be, because the next day I was on a bus back to Minnesota.
And what did you do when you got here?
I went to a meeting,
Yeah.
started recovery again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so maybe it was supposed to happen just like that.
Who knows?
Like
Looking back at it,
like
definitely.
417 says,
Accept it. It's
nothing
the answer
happens
to all
in
my.
God's world by mistake.
Exactly.
So an hour's been knocked out, guys and gals. See, Melinda?
Yeah.
Oh, nervous pants over there.
All my snacks.
And getting back
keeping
to our
me
topic
busy.
on grief,
Yes.
you know, I mean, it's all of those things born of self. And it's all of those things that make me human.
Yeah.
Those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, right? And when it says our life had become unmanageable, they're not talking about the external, they're talking about the internal. And that internal is what I think, feel, and believe. You know, last week it was brought up, and Carl Jung was talking to, I think it was Roland Hazard, and he says, you know, you're hopeless. I've never seen something in this like I've seen in you. But there are things that are called spiritual experiences or awakenings that happen in these men.
Yep.
Yep.
Thoughts, ideas, and emotions that were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men were suddenly cast aside, and a whole new conception started to dominate them.
And this was last week. You heard this?
Yeah. Well, I didn't. It was brought up last week, right? So my life, when the book tells me that my life is unmanageable, it's not talking about the external, it's talking about the internal. And the
Yeah.
internal is
Yeah.
the bondage of self. And what I think, feel...
The restless, irritable discontent.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I've got people around me in a fellowship. I've got sponsees that I work with that takes me out of myself.
And hold you accountable.
Well, my God holds me accountable.
Okay.
Because I have to look myself in the mirror. Right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times my God.
And that's my problem.
Yeah, my God talks through my sponsees, though.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
I don't need a sponsor and I don't need sponsees to keep me accountable. I need a God
Absolutely.
that does. right?
Absolutely.
God does all that.
But I mean, I definitely get a lot of my answers
He
from
does.
my girls. You know?
He does, and I'll tell you a story of how. I was 7 years sober, and you've seen these sayings on the walls of Alcoholics Anonymous when we come in. Think, think, think.
Yep.
Let go and let God. Easy does it.
All these things.
It pissed me off because I didn't have any experience in any of them. In any of them. I didn't understand what it meant. Just like I didn't understand what this book was.
Is that
telling
why
me.
it pissed you off though? Because you just didn't understand it, so that's what got under your skin?
Well, you know, when you sit in a meeting and somebody says, just read the acceptance, I go, well, why don't you read it with them? And tell them your experience, strength, and hope as it relates to that, because this person is suffering from the bondage of self and untreated alcoholism and might need a guide. Because if somebody just told me to read the book, which I've done, I didn't get it.
Yeah, reading it by myself, no way. That would have never worked.
No.
Oh,
Never.
right.
For me personally. Some, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not
No.
saying it couldn't happen, but
Not at all.
No.
there's no way. I needed one of you guys
No.
to take me through it.
Because they had the experience.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying about the slogans on the wall.
I mean, and there's so much, even in the book, like, you know, line by line, it's crazy, like, the backstory. Like,
Yeah.
you know, my book is just filled with notes.
Yeah, and in one of my big awakenings, I think I was 7 years sober, and I've had both of I've got a soon-to-be 20-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son, and they're twins.
So, wait. Something's off there. What'd you say?
Just a few years.
I have a 20-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son, and they're twins.
Okay. So they're just alike.
Yeah, but they're different ages.
Yeah. No, I caught on. I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure we elaborated that.
And the reason that they're twins is because the only way that me and my wife, and we tried many years to have children, was through in vitro fertilization.
Oh, so really they're twins?
They're twins.
Oh,
They were
shit.
conceived in the same batch at the same time.
Shit.
We had my daughter and we froze my son for 9 years.
That's crazy.
So I'm at the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. My wife she's gone to Al-Anon. My daughter's made friends in that. She is now a black belt, by the way, and she will hit you with the Al-Anon, and which is good. But both of them started getting on me about trying again to have another child, and I'm going, no, oh my God, I'm going to be 40. I don't want another kid. Aren't we having fun? Aren't we all this other stuff? And when I talk about God holding us accountable and doing your morning meditation and stuff like that,
yeah.
God told me that I was being selfish. John, you're being selfish. And this was on a Mother's Day.
Oh, good.
And I was absolutely pissed. I was angry. Because now that I know that I'm being selfish, I've got to do something selfless, and I have to say, okay. I don't have to like it, I have to do it. Let go and let God.
Let go and let God. One of those sayings.
But this was at 7 years, right? But I was very angry, talk to anybody. I was angry, I did not want to do it. What I wanted...
Having a damn another kid.
But what I wanted, but I had to let that go. I had to let that go and put it in God's hands.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So did it come to you in prayer, in a dream? I mean, how did it come to you that all of a sudden... I know I'm putting the
We
brakes on the
constructively
story.
review our day.
Okay, so at the end of your day, you're doing your 10th, and
And I'm sitting here, and all of a sudden, the great interrupter is
The great interrupter.
The great interrupter is who I formed a relationship with.
the great interrupter.
Let me know that I was being selfish in this situation, and I said, "Oh my God, I've got to. I can't be selfish, because the book tells me that it's going to lead me down a path that I don't want to be. I don't have to like it. I don't have to like it. I have to turn it over. I have to turn it over. But I was pissed that I had to turn it over, and I was angry, and I was all this other stuff, and I'm telling everybody, and I'm blah, 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 blah.
That term of throwing up on everyone, that's
But we
telling
go through
them.
the process, right? And, we're 40, 41 at the time. My wife has a very, very troublesome, what do they call that, labor. And she was very tired, couldn't push him out. And she just couldn't do it, you know. And they're coming in, let's do a C-section, let's do all this. And she's going, no, I can do this, I can do this. And, I had to lean down, and I said, I had to let God get us here. You got to let God finish it.
Oh, just got goosebumps. Because I know how hard that decision would be. Like, I would be
It
just
is.
like her.
It is.
Yeah.
And and look at all the blessings and all the joy that I've had with my son and in our family, and those that are around it. If I continued to be selfish. I didn't have to like it, I had to do it. And my sponsor didn't hold me accountable, the meeting didn't hold me accountable, God held me accountable.
Yeah.
And it's happened many, many other times over many, many other instances, but I didn't get what that sign meant, let go and let God, until I really had to do it.
Yeah. You didn't have to put it into action before that.
Well, and on a small level, I truly understand what that means now, right?
I feel like that's
And-
one of those
and this
things, though,
thing that-
logically, you get it.
Yeah.
Like, logically, yes. Okay, yeah, that saying
Intellectually,
makes
it's
sense.
easy.
You know, but
But that-
then living it, like,
Living it is.
How do you live it?
Yeah.
I mean, like he just
He just
said,
explained it.
you know.
Well,
It's a
yeah,
story of-
I was asking her.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah, no.
how have you let go and let God, Melinda?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, like, you
That's
know,
great.
the
That was
whole
good.
coming back to Quest thing. For me, like, I have to let go of my pride and ego that I have nothing to offer them, because those women, they need to see that we struggle, you know? And for me, there's so much that I have to let go and let God with, you know, this whole situation with my grandma. You know, we had a pretty rocky relationship.
This is the grandma who got your child.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, and so our relationship was pretty, I mean, it was hit and miss. Like, but she was my constant. Like, at the end of the day, like, me and Dustin were just talking about this morning. Like, no matter how toxic it was still my constant. No matter how toxic and how, you know, just bad it was for my mental health, it was still she was my rock, you know? Like, when my parents were in their active addiction, she took me from them. And they never did what I'm doing right now. And, like, being sober and doing the deal and doing what I have to for my children, you know? And so for me, like, even when my mom got sober, you know, she was still the one. Like, my mom didn't fight her for it. Like, she stepped up the whole cycle again, you know? And so for me, like, this is where I have to let go and I have to let God lead my way, because, like I said at the beginning, like, my mind wants to be numb, my mind wants to shut down, and my mind wants to just call it good, because that's what it knows. And that's how it knows how to deal with grief. And so letting go and letting God, and, like, showing up to this, like, showing up to my meetings, like, it's not what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I want to isolate and I want to lay in my bed and I want to wallow in my self-pity, but unfortunately I have a 3-year-old, you know, and a 13-year-old, and, you know, they need me to get up, and yeah, we're all grieving, and yeah, we're going through shit, but, like, I have to let go and let God and show them that we can get through this together, and I'm not going to go get high, and I'm not going to leave them.
That takes power.
I mean, and it's not me. Like, I can't even say, like, hey, this is me doing this. Like, this is 100% God. And, I mean, I even told Tim that yesterday, like, this isn't me doing any of this, you know? And even with as rocky as, like, up and down and ebb and flow as, like, my recovery is, like, it's still all God. Like, at the end of the day, it is all God. Because this is not my natural reaction to any of this. You know,
Yeah,
with my
yeah.
parents and with Justin, like, I got high. That's how I dealt with it. So,
Yeah, because grief is a feeling that when my father and brother passed away, grief was something that I internalized. It was mine. It wasn't
Yes.
anything that I shared.
yep,
I didn't share it with anybody. It was something that was a cudgel that I used to fuel whatever internally what it was. Right?
absolutely.
I just had, I have an Irish twin, his name is Ray, and he was killed out in California.
What does Irish twin mean?
He's
Within 12 months.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
11 months
okay.
older than I am.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And he was killed on the job, best friend. I mean, we had our own language, and, you know, nobody knew me better than my brother. And I was able to, instead of internalize it and turn it into a bad, I was able to think about the good and the remember his life. You know, just do it in a different manner. And what got me there is doing the work that I've done and working with other men and sharing that type of stuff, so that grief isn't internal anymore. It's an external feeling. Our stories are the same, the details are different. If you want to shame internally, if you want to grieve internally,
Yep.
if you want to do all those things born to self internally, it's going to kill you, and
Yep.
it's going to kill you slowly.
Absolutely.
Okay? And how long is that volcano of inner unmanageability going to erupt before
Yeah.
you have to, because you don't have a solution.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
the solution for
absolutely.
me is to blah.
Right, get
Yeah.
it out.
This is
Yeah.
what's going on.
Confess.
Right? I don't have to
Yeah.
have the answers, and thank God the people around me tell me, oh, well, what did your higher power say? You know?
So, like, what you're saying, all right, damn, I don't want to lose that question. And I think you answered it, but when your buddy, your Irish twin, he passed, like, you, without anyone telling you, you instantly, you went to, like, not turn it into a good thing, but you weren't stricken with grief because you were remembering these good times, going to the mountains and doing these bike rides, whatever the case was. But in the past, because I've dealt with people passing and they're like, well, remember the good times. Like, and that's someone trying to help me get through a grieving time. How does that, the question I guess is, how does that come about where you're naturally now, that's where you went to. It wasn't just grief now, it's you're remembering good times. What you shared about, how did that even evolve?
It's a consequence of doing the work of program of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I like the word consequence.
Right? It's a consequence, and it really is. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes were once the guiding forces of these events were suddenly cast aside, and a whole new concept started to dominate them. Right? When I went through this work, what I thought, felt, and believed, and how my process for processing information and those things about my feelings, this book taught me how to do that with God's help.
Yep.
When
Absolutely.
I was internaling this grief, when I was internaling all the suffering, when I was internaling all of those things that were killing me, I felt my way through so I don't ever have to feel it again. And I did it with my higher power's help.
Yeah.
So when those new things happen, I have experience just like let go and let God. I have now done it. I've got the insurance when stuff does happen because I've felt my way through it before. And what really are people sitting in the rooms? They're not using, they're not high, they're not suffering from, well, I've got a craving. You been using? No. It's not a craving. The phenomenon of craving happens after you drink. What you've got is untreated alcoholism. We've
Yeah.
got a program for that.
We do.
Right?
Got to work it.
Yeah.
And it's the mental thing. And it's
Yeah.
the mental thing. And our stories are the same. The details are different. We all have to feel our way, and we all have the same feelings. And
Yeah.
I wish it would happen more in the rooms. When I sit down and there is a topic, I'm going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what I'm like now. It's intimacy. Into me, you're going to see.
Into me, you are going to see intimacy. Huh? You like
You're
that?
going to see it, right? Because those suffering from untreated alcoholism aren't there to learn about you flipping somebody off on the road. They're there because they're suffering from the bondage of self and they're dying. They
Yeah.
want to know how not to die and not use.
Absolutely. Or
Please
even when they
help
jump
them.
into a step 8 meeting.
Please
like
help
they
them.
need before, here, now. You know?
Please help them. Yes, those that have felt their way through it. Please help them.
Yeah.
Because it's important. It's a life and death errand.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, I feel that with my grief too. Like, I did so much work with a therapist about the grief that I had before, but it did not prepare me for this. But I also know the solution, you know, like, I've got a therapy appointment made, and I've got the next month, like, made for that. And, I found a grief group, and, like, I've got the simple, like, solutions to my pain. And I know that I'm not alone, and I feel like, you know, with grief, like, that's what it wants me to believe. Like you were just saying, like, you grieved alone and you were killing yourself.
Yes.
You know? And so it's like, yeah, like, I'm not alone, and I'm not going to let my brain trick me into that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, hence why I'm here, hence why, you know, I mean, as much of a struggle as it is, like, I get myself out of my way.
It's part of that first step. It's
Yeah.
truly, you understand that this is no longer an illusion and a delusion in your life because you know what happened to you the last time that you did it that way. So you know
Absolutely.
what not to do.
I know what not to do. I've been down that road. And so, yeah,
But it's scary, it's fearful to have this new way, and pray for God's help to be able to have the courage and and the tenacity to be able to share it with another human being.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is part of our fifth step. It's that confession. It puts it in the light. It's no longer shared. This compounds on itself, this program, it compounds on itself. And when you start to do it, it becomes that vital sixth sense. You
Yep.
just start to automatically do it. You just, it becomes almost natural. The
Yep.
uncommon becomes common. The unnatural becomes natural. It's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. You know, I think that we came here the next day after my grandma died, and I didn't even know what to do. Like, we just came, and I'd never speak in large meetings, like, and, you know, it was the burning desire, and I actually shared, and I was like, you know, and I'm grateful for my clean time that she got to see that. Like, she got to cross over to the other side, knowing damn well that I'm doing everything in my power today to live in God's world. And that I will do what it takes to continue to do that as long as I stay in my spiritual condition.
Yeah.
And I will be okay. And the boys will be okay. You know? And she got to see me get my 6 years. And I just remember, like, how that hit me at that meeting that night. And it was like, I'm super grateful for that. Like, I'm super grateful that I have a solid foundation, that she's up there watching me actually get through this. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying I'm doing it perfect, but it, you know, we're making it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to get high.
Yeah, and that's good that you found that, because, you know, in those 20 years that I was suffering from untreated alcoholism, I went to Alano clubs, but I found sick meetings to where I didn't have to do the work or talk to anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
You found a co-signing meeting.
Well, in the fact of the matter, and it's kind of like your Florida story. I didn't have anybody there that, you know, outside of the guys out west that had that smart ass comment about,
Oh,
about
my son is
evolution.
watching. Hi, Connor.
Hi, Connor.
Hey, Connor, thanks for checking in.
Love you, bud.
So that type of experience.
Oh, yes.
You know, I mean, we've all had them.
Just real quick.
We've all had them.
So I'm real quick. Okay, so we've got multiple feeds. Tad's good about telling the audience. Does always forget. Try, if you're listening, try to get over to the Facebook live, the 2218. You know what? I'm happy you're listening. Don't worry about where you're listening to us at. Sometimes though, if you post questions, they're not always going to be seen by anyone here if we're not on the same feed you're on. I guess I'm 100 years old. I don't understand this crap, but I'm going to learn. I promise you.
I don't see no grade in your beard.
I just for men. Like, just for men is the business. Like, you can't tell that much. Tad took some pictures when it was gray and made sure to put it on a big public thread, but that's okay.
Nice.
I don't really care. Hey, I'm breathing. So, you know what, boys and girls? It is that time of 10:26. Oh, we got some more chat. We can, yeah, this show is
Do
banging.
some shout outs.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got
Run 'em down.
Cassie, my sister.
Run them down.
Love
Melinda.
you. Dustin.
Oh,
What
yeah.
up, baby dad?
Justin. You know what? Real quick, congratulations to Josh W. He's graduating. He's doing real good in recovery, and congratulations, bro. Thank you for checking in and supporting the show. Keep going.
We got Chantal. What up? We got Jamie Olson. Hi, Jamie. Who else? Andrea. We got Andrea and
E.
Nick.
Yep, yep.
Hey, guys.
John B is listening. Oh, he's here too. Yeah, Andrea, my fishing partner, Ron's on. We got a lot of people. Everyone that
We do.
supports the show, thank you, and remember to share with people that could benefit. Tim F, thank you, Caitlin, thank you.
We got Ann. What up, Mama Ann?
Yes, thank you. You know what? The support, that's everyone that's checked in. Thank you guys. Post a question if anyone wants to get a question on real quick. We could probably knock one out before the show is over. Let me check my inbox because I always get them in there and I tell people to send them. There we go. I got 1, 2, 3. Okay.
We got Emily. What up, Emily?
So, I guess we could do like, you know what? Here, this is a question posed to either of you. Matter of fact, we'll both take it. First, Ken, thank you for stepping up again to being on the show. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Timmy.
We've shared enough where I know both you guys do have a higher power, and you know you understand where that fits in with your recovery. And earlier I was trying to get at like, okay, This is a tricky question, but all right, Melinda first. Do you know the time in your recovery where you realized your higher power was crucial to your recovery? Where it meant life or death that you had to have a higher power?
My last day using, it was then. And I think for me, that I don't have the same experience because I watched my mom live the program. So I knew going into it, like, okay, this is the deal, and I was praying to a God that I didn't believe in to kill me when I was out there using. Like, just please take me so I don't have to feel this or give me a reason bigger than my grief. So at that moment, when I woke up that day, like I said, everything changed. That was my moment of surrender. And since then, I haven't looked back. But I can say that my higher power has changed drastically from day one to now. When I first got into the rooms, I didn't have a history with God like Jesus. I didn't have a history with that. My parents didn't bring me to church, never was brought to church.
It was never forced on you. You never
And
had,
I never
okay.
felt like he was a bad God or anything like that. I just felt like he was for those people, the happy people, the ones who, you know what I mean? Like, he was for them. He wasn't for people like me. And so when I first got sober, like, it was really easy to call my higher power my parents.
Okay.
And
yeah.
then when I got to my step 4 and I had all my resentments at my parents for leaving me, for, their addiction, for X, Y, and Z, like, I couldn't, in good faith, keep them as my higher power. And so then it shifted to God, but it was very broad. And, it was about 4 years ago. My buddy Dwayne, he's watching or listening.
Shout out Dwayne.
Shout out Dwayne. He and it's his birthday today.
Happy birthday, Dwayne. When
And
she
so-
met me. Get her, Dustin.
Oh my gosh. And so
The one time you check in, it's for that shit? Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he had invited me to Anoka Eaglebrook, and for the first time, like, I felt home, and that was a
A
game
first
changer.
welcoming. That was the first time you had that feeling?
Yeah, like walking into that church, and so not having a history with a church or Jesus or anything, I had to venture out.
Right.
And I went and checked out a bunch of churches. And they were great. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about them.
Do you think it was because you were seeking that? You were.
Oh, yeah. I wanted that more than anything, and so I did have to go and see it, like, okay, is this just made up in my head that this feels like home, or is this real?
Right.
So I went and checked out a bunch of different churches, and when I finally came back to Eaglebrook, I instantly, like, I felt home. I got, like, this warm sensation of, like, this is where I need to be, and so I started doing the deal. I got active in my church. I started tithing. I started everything to do with my relationship with God I focused on, and then I got pregnant and yeah. But that's my experience with that.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to bring it to you in just 1 second, John. I want to share something about Tim real quick because, I never had... church was, if I wanted to go to anything religious, it was on my own shoulders. My mom never forced it. If I ever wanted it, she would help. But in recovery, with my sponsor, Ron, who basically I was probably taken through the book the same way you were because the guy who took you through the book took my sponsor, he took him through the book, who took me through. It's kind of that whole circle. Yep. Well, I picked my higher power was my mom. And I was pretty loud about that with people for a while. So, and my sponsor, Ron, knows my mom. Like, he's a family friend. Like, he was the only guy I knew in recovery, and I asked him to sponsor me before I even got out of treatment. And, of course, he said yes. And he let it go. He said, all right, if that's, because I was pretty adamant about it. Like, my mom's a shit. She backs me. I give her shots out every week. I love this woman, this and that. He didn't say much. Well, the guy who took you through the book said, well, Tim, what's going to happen when she makes a mistake?
Yep.
Like, think about that. Now, I put my mom on this pedestal, and I was like, wait, what are you saying about my mom? That's my brain still in early recovery. And my mom's infallible. We all are. Some say a light switch. Well, what if that light switch fucking stops working? Then I put all this power into something that might F up, and then where? I'm lost. I put all this power into something. Now, that's my story. Like, it was explained to me, like, you got, you can have your mom as your higher power, Tim, if you want, but what's going to happen when she makes a mistake? Mm-hmm. It really opened my eyes. So, John, to you.
Well, I know exactly when it happened.
Because you did say you grew up around, I mean, you knew
I did.
the presidents.
I did. But I also had a history of religion, of everything that was man-made, and it's kind of like the meeting that you went to, where you asked for help and nobody gave you help.
Yeah, it happens.
For me, I would have condemned all of AA. It's AA's fault.
Yup.
Just like that pastor
Instead-
that told you,
I-
yep.
It was an individual that
Wrecked it for
that I
everyone.
should have
Yeah.
had an issue
Well,
with.
thank God you didn't.
But I condemned
Everybody, yeah.
I condemned anything that had to do with it, right? So fundamentally, the first thing that I had to do was, which is the common solution that we have, was be willing.
Yep.
And what did Bill say to Ebby? On a foundation of complete willingness, I saw that I could build what I saw in my friend. Right?
Yep.
Came to believe. I had to be willing to believe before anything started happening.
Willing.
Without that willingness, there is no step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
You had to admit.
I had to be willing. That's it. It's a very high bar that we all can walk under, and there is a exercise that I give my sponsees, and when we get to step 2, are you now willing or willing to believe and turn your will over? Before we get to that, I give them a pen and a piece of paper. I says, regardless of what you've thought about anything human or any experience, lay aside your prejudice and just draw me a picture of what you think God might be. And I have yet to have somebody not do that. And I asked them one question. What does this represent? And 100% of the time they say, well, the God. I said, no, it's willingness.
Yeah. And you're right. They're willing to do it, yeah.
Because it tells us our own conception.
Yep.
Now, then the second conversation I said, you no longer have an excuse to not build a relationship.
Yeah.
You're willing
because,
to, yeah.
Because you chose.
Right.
You can't blame it on the guy that told me that. You can't blame it on other things.
Yeah.
You have now chosen, and like your mom, if it ain't doing it, get a bigger God. I don't give a damn
Right.
what it is.
It
Yeah.
was working for a
Get a
while
bigger
for me. Yeah,
one.
right,
Yep.
right.
Get a bigger one. What I'm looking for is the willingness, because that's what I didn't have.
Yep.
That's what I was going to ask you, kind of. I was going to interrupt you and say, so did someone do that to you about drawing the picture? Did you do that thinking, if someone would have done this for me when I was looking for this and it wasn't working, if someone said, hey, would you draw this, that's willingness? Where did you come up with that?
Kim, we stand on the shoulders of the titans that came before us.
All right, our predecessors.
This is not something that I came up with, but it's something that made sense and stuck.
Our predecessors.
That's exactly right.
The Titans, I like you kind of, pedestal them better than me, but
Yep.
our predecessors.
Our predecessors, yeah. There is not an original thought that comes out of my mouth. It's all been freely given to me by those that are in the fellowship and are a heck of a lot smarter than I am as it relates to what I think, feel, and believe.
Yeah.
Modest, this guy.
It's the absolute truth. Because I have 20 years of showing how not to do it.
Right.
So, I come to rely upon that. So, but it happened with my sponsor, New Hope. They went away. We went to Twin Lake, Alano. We were at step 3, and there was this passage in step 3, and it says, philosophical convictions galore. We couldn't live up to them even if we wanted to. And I knew right then and there that I was the problem. And I got emotional. I am not a crier. I mean, I was sitting down and I was reading this passage, and I had to go outside because I was emotional, and my sponsor pulls up and says, I get it. I get it. I get it.
And it felt good, though.
It was a spiritual experience because I felt an overwhelming sense of it's going to be okay. I
Yeah.
now get it.
Yep.
But I had to be willing before I even got there to
Yeah.
even let that in,
Right.
right? And I've had many of those throughout time. Most of my experiences of the
What they call it, spirit,
learned variety.
learned variety,
Yeah, yeah.
or spiritual experience?
Yeah, yeah.
Or a white light?
Yeah, I felt an overwhelming presence that I don't normally feel, right?
It goes in the hole, the back end. We're talking about the microphone. Talking about the microphone. Even though there's 2 girls in here, 3 guys. All right, so
So from that point, I could build upon that relationship
Okay,
that
yeah,
I knew,
yeah.
right? And it was that feeling, it was that, and I had to define what that was, and I came up with my own conception. It's the great interrupter.
The
I
great
get
interrupter.
to choose, and that's who I've formed my relationship with over the years.
And then life got easier.
It's something, yes, it started to get easier. I didn't have to do it the old way anymore. Yeah.
and that's what I want people to not understand just, but hear. I was sharing with Melinda on the phone earlier, just to know that someone can hear this is, Ken hit a lot of things on the head with that statement was, John explained he was willing to do this. Willing. And as a result, life got easier.
Yeah.
It's not that life was perfect. It's not that life was, all right, it's fixed now. There was work ahead of him, but he was willing to do something about it, and life got easier. He talked about, it's that thing you always say in meetings, like, when you take that first drink and you're like,
That's a sense, comfort, and ease that comes once by taking a few drinks. That's restless, irritable, and disconnect. I've replaced that with prayer and meditation. I now get that sense, comfort, and ease from that.
yeah.
But early in recovery, you had no idea what prayer and meditation
Oh,
was.
no.
No.
It's like, it's
You had to go through the book with somebody.
like humping for the first time, dude. I mean,
I love it.
Here we go
Humping.
again, humping
He said
again.
humping. I love it. Humping. Oh, humpers.
But here's the other question: is that the meeting that you were in, was that a big book meeting though?
No, actually, it was Saturday night. It was a mixed open, and it was family friendly. My daughter was very young at the time. My sponsor and everybody, and there was a lot of fellowship afterwards, right? Back in when we were living out west, my wife would say, we need friends and all this other stuff. I was not. No.
John said, I'm fine. I don't need any more friends.
Nobody wanted me around,
Right,
and,
right.
As we got into it, it's like, God, really? We've got this much to do? So, I mean, that's just part of being present in the program in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and in the fellowship. So
Basically, a lot of the meetings you go to today are big book meetings.
they are. That's
Yeah,
where,
right
that's where
into
the
meat
solution
and potatoes, baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
Meat and potatoes.
Well, actually no, because when I need somebody to work with, I will go to a meeting that don't bring in big books.
Really? It just shares? You just shares?
Well, I will go and I'll sit at a new meeting, and I know that if there is no big book and somebody's not sitting in it and bringing a solution, to me, I haven't done the 8-step, but let me tell you, if I did, what it would be like,
That's drawing that's drawing a roadmap to somewhere you haven't been yet.
right?
And I think that can kill.
And
Yeah.
that's what happened to me. I was sitting in waiting to look for a sponsor, and that's how I found Bob. And he it wasn't an opinion, it was a solution. And I said, that's what I need. And I know that there are other men that are out there that are suffering from untreated alcoholism that need the same thing that I needed. And that's where I go hunting.
So you go there to show to be of service. That's it.
That's
It's like the
what I
noon meetings we used to go to.
Yeah, but you know what though? Like I really don't promote much for meetings if we have guests on and they want to talk about a meeting somewhere or something, but COVID happened and a lot of meetings shut down, and that's why I praise 2218. They did what it took to stay open.
Yeah.
And I want to do some plugging here in a second, but there's a men's meeting I go to on Thursday nights at New Hope Alano, and it's I keep them in the Alanos, but it's a great meeting, and it's a men's meeting, but no butts involved. It's a men's meeting, and I get my cup filled. I don't know how else to explain it. That's as best I can say it, but there's a lot of recovery that gets talked about. We do read out of the book, and then we share some experiences with what was just read.
There's lots and lots of recovery there.
Yeah, but that's and that's what it works best when I'm around stuff like that, and there will be a point in time here sooner than later, hopefully, where I start branching out to doing things of this nature John's talking about. You know, I think it also helps in people's recovery. I'm going down the road I don't want to. So the Gratitude Cafe, that's every Friday night. Jane puts it on. $5, you're going to get filled up. Like, it doesn't get better than that. You're getting a homemade meal for $5, dessert and coffee and water and fruit cups and blah blah blah. It's always good. She's gonna start expanding the days to, I think, Monday. I forgot to say that earlier. Melinda, we're getting pretty close to wrapping things up and starting the wrap down. Is there anything you want to talk about or share about before we start doing all that? Anything you wanted to bring up? No, I'm on the spot. I'm totally putting you on the spot.
Right. Yeah. I mean.
Oh, she's getting red. Look at she's trying to eat.
Again.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, here goes a marshmallow.
I don't even know. Like, we covered everything that, like, was on my heart to really want to talk about.
That's
you know,
good.
for me, like, my program now, you know, in the beginning of COVID, like, the women are what saved me. And so my sponsor and I started Monday nights a women's Bible study for moms. And that's super cool. Like, bring your kids. It's down at Free Grace United in
What time?
downtown Minneapolis. It starts at 6:30. We're starting back up July 1st.
July 1st,
Do you do
6:30?
big
That
book?
Monday.
Do you do big book meetings?
No, it's a.
No,
It's
I'm
a
just
Bible
asking.
study.
I know
Okay.
that's what she's talking about now. But
So,
do
I
you
mean,
do a big book meeting?
I haven't really been super AA or
Yeah, no,
NA.
it's your whatever works for you.
yeah.
We talk about this new way of living.
Right.
Yep.
That's it.
And so, I mean, I do Serenity Village on Tuesday nights.
Yeah,
I just
it's a
went
great
for the
recovery
first
meeting.
time.
Oh, that was the first time you ever been?
Yeah, and it was super cool. You
Yeah,
know?
I went
mean,
there
it-
for a year straight. My early recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Faster
for
than I
a
had
long
it.
time,
Yeah,
pre-COVID, I was going to the women's big book study over in Golden Valley. I mean, so I used to incorporate it, and now my recovery has shifted. And it's okay. Like, it definitely works for me.
If it's
I
working
pop
for
in-
you.
I pop in here for, you know, the Phoenix meeting at 6:30 at 2218.
A little plug-in.
Little plug in, you know, I mean, I pop in, but it's not a consistent thing. But, you know, my quest and my mom's Bible study and stuff like that are my constants.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, boys and gals, what we're going to do now is we're going to get into our gratitude. Again, 2218. That's where we're having the show. You know what, John? Anything you want to talk about and get off your chest real quick before the show's wrapped up?
No burning desires.
No burning desires. And a burning desire, no. So, 2218, if, you know what, Cheryl did put up a link, I believe, and it's on here in the earlier messages, but it's 2218 we're talking about here. That's, you hear it every week. It's
On the 26th?
the world's longest running Alano Club, and it's the one that did not close down during COVID. It's the one that helped save my life personally.
Holla.
And it's also the place that's holding the Ride for Recovery in a couple weeks here on the 26th. Kickstands up at 10 a.m. out in St. Paul, Harley?
Yep, St. Paul Harley.
Yes, and I think if you get there even earlier, there's a pancake breakfast.
There is.
That's also when registration is between 8 and 9:30. Then the party jumps off here at the parking lot at 1:30 p.m. And then at 4 p.m., there's a band called Zoo Factor. Barbecues at 5. There's a guest speaker at 6:30. Medallion meeting at 7 p.m. 8 p.m. is the band back on the stage. I'm killing it. So 2218, it's the shit. I don't know what else to say. We could use donations. Definitely could use them. It's an old building. A lot of upgrades to do. Keeping it up. Historical spot. We just really appreciate the support. And we can use as much as possible. There is the Recovery Okie. Don't forget about that. It's going on right now. Come on down here. Get your sing on. We're all going to go over there and sing some music after this.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going to do your rap music?
No, yeah, the rap battle's coming up. I wish I had the dates, but I just don't have them. I don't tell Tad, but I don't really care about it. I just kind of make jokes. If I whisper, he's not going to hear.
I hope
That's what I
not.
heard.
I really don't care about it. I mean, I support it. It's gonna be like just come down and watch people trying to. And it's gonna be a blast. So gratitude. We having that wireless mic. Here, you know what? First one I want to ask. You know what you've been grateful for this last week is you, Ken. What are you grateful for? Please tell us.
What have I been grateful for?
Yeah.
Water.
Oh, yeah. Shit. Yeah. I didn't even think about that water.
What am I really grateful for is life.
Okay.
Yep.
Sobriety. Pain in the ass kids. Yep. My fellow friends, too. I wouldn't be here without you guys. Even the ones I don't know.
Hey.
But you're meeting them. You're getting to know them.
I get so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So we have a guest in the studio tonight. Her name is Katie.
Hola.
And we need to know what she's grateful for tonight.
I'm grateful for being here tonight, listening to you guys. Grateful for Melinda and her friendship. We learn a lot from each other. I'm grateful for my church, my kids, my job, and today's not my clean date, but it is 5 years ago that I turned my life around and haven't looked back. So, good times.
Thank you for being here, Katie. I really appreciate it. We appreciate the support big time. So, next I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Melinda, what are you grateful for tonight?
I am grateful for getting out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
Coming down here. I mean, as much as everything in me was screaming not to, you know, I'm grateful for the people that God has put in my path to, you know, make sure that I don't feel alone on this journey. I'm grateful for Dustin and our co-parenting relationship because our kid is pretty freaking cool.
God, I wanted to talk about you guys tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have both you back on this show. Both
You
you
just-
and Dustin. I'm
Yeah,
going to clear his
right.
schedule.
We gotta tell him that we'll just take my car down here because he doesn't want his truck down here. But he'll bring it over to North Minneapolis though.
Sorry, yeah. We were going to have him. All right, keep going with your gratitude list. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You know, and really, I mean, my job and just everything. Like, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm grateful to be present for my kids through this whole experience. I'm grateful to be of service.
Awesome. And we're grateful you're here. So, John, what are you grateful for this week?
I don't know if it's necessarily this week, but I'm grateful that I have debits that were on my balance sheet that are now credits.
Yeah.
And, you know, that I have found a program of Alcoholics Anonymous that has saved me from a hopeless state of mind and body. And I'm grateful that there are outlets like this that hopefully those that are still suffering from untreated whatever have an outlet, and we just want to say that you don't have to live that way anymore. Come
That's
and
right.
see us. So.
Amen.
Thank you very much, John. Well put.
Hey, Tim,
Yeah.
what are you grateful
I
for
was
today?
wondering if you're going to step up into your position tonight and ask me. As always, I'd like to thank my mommy and my daddy. I'm grateful for family. Families hold me down. I have, for as long as I held them hostage and burnt bridges, like, they're still there for me. I'm like a grown adult. It's crazy. Don't feel like it, but I'm an adult. And the closest people in my life is my parents and my family. I have family that I care about and I love, like a niece, brother. Like, I have family. And I have extended family that support the show. Like, I've got cheerleaders, and I'm grateful for it. I talk about it every week. And water, too. Like, serious. I've been outside, like, working again. I'm trying to be clean. So I've been working a lot lately and outside, so that sucks. But I'm grateful to have the work. This program that taught me how to get through this BS and acceptance like that. Now, I kind of touched on it earlier, like what Bob always says is, like, you know, stay in the solution. That's very powerful. If you truly remind yourself when shit's bad, is try to stay in the solution. Don't focus on the problem. That's worked really well for me. When I'm mad, it's over a problem that my head's telling me it's such a big problem. But then for me to just try to figure out what the solution is. Things just miraculously just start getting better when I'm not focused on the problem. Like, I have an uncle that I brought in on work last week who's nothing. I don't even know if he knows what AA is. Like, he's an older dude, and I drug him out in this heat to help me with some. He's a wizard when it comes to masonry and like carpentry, and I've drug him out because I needed a hand. But I was bitching about some extra work that we were doing that I know I'm not getting paid for, and he's like, "Who cares? Don't worry about that." And he was basically like, "Quit focusing on the problem. Like, it's gonna make your workday shit." And it was just so cut and dry. Like, he at one point, I think I kept bringing it up. He's like, "Tim, just like I can't worry about that stuff."
Wait, it's like John said a little bit ago. Let it go.
Oh, 100%. I don't know. It's weird to hear someone else like this thing we do. We're not in the norm. You know, we're not the higher percent of the population. So I don't know. My head goes elsewhere. So you know what? I'm grateful for all those things I just blabbed about. Now it's the time that we do all sorts of other jazz during the show. 7 minutes left to talk about this thing we do. You know what? Before we go into that, what do they call it? Popcorn? What does Tad call them?
Burning desire.
No.
Buzzer beater?
Buzzer beater. That's
Boom.
a real fan there, girl. Yeah, I got a couple that we're gonna talk about, but the 2218 thing. What I really want to talk about is John shared about it is if you know someone's struggling, you know someone who's hurting mentally, whatever, if they're untreated, whatever it is, come reach out. Don't deal with it on your own. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of anonymous programs out here. You can reach out to me personally. I've put my number in the chat. You can get me on Facebook at Timothy J. Warren. Just reach out. Don't do this on your
You
own.
can reach out to me.
You want to give your info?
Yep. I'll put my number in there for the ladies. I don't want to hear any dudes calling me.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Listen, I got a crazy baby dad. I'll stick him on you.
It's not. What it's about is saving lives. That's just. I want you to know, like, you know, people care about you. You're not alone. There's a group of us out here that we help each other. You just got to reach out. That's all you need to do. And I'll tell you, you're loved. So, all right. Enough with the gooey ooies. Buzzer beater time. Katie, swing your mic around to her. All right. If you were stuck on a desert island, like just one little island, and you could have 2 items, what would you take with you? And I'm switching the questions up, so don't think you're going to be thinking about what you're going to take on the island, guys. What are you taking?
Like material, not food?
Whatever.
Well, food and water.
Oh, that was easy. All right, food and water. All right, well, Melinda, stuck on a desert island, 2 items you're bringing, but it can't be food or water.
Oh, good. My cell phone.
Okay, and?
A Bible.
All right, shit. What are you going to do when her phone dies? But, all right.
Read our Bible.
There you go. John, no cell phone, no Bible, no food, no water. You're stuck on a desert island. What are you bringing?
Ferro rod and a hatchet.
A what?
Ferro rod.
Ferro rod. Is that like a fishing pole?
Fire starter.
Oh, ferro rod and a hatchet. He's trying to live. He's trying to live out there. Ken, no fire starter, no hatchet, no Bible, no food, no water, no cell phone. What are you bringing?
A boat.
That's
what
some.
she
And
just
some
said.
gas.
We had a guest say a boat.
That's what Emily just said.
Emily and Ken. That's awesome sauce.
A boat and suntan lotion.
God, someone sent me another buzzer beater. I can't do that one. So you know what? Thank everyone. You know what, guys and gals? Thank you so much for checking in. Melinda, thank you for stepping up. Katie, thank you for being here for support. Serious, Melinda, thank you for stepping up. I just dropped this on you. I know you were nervous about it. Time's done. Like,
She did well.
was it that bad?
No. I'll definitely come
She's
back.
actually smiling.
Yeah.
And she's
I just
not
have to
red.
have
And she
all my
hardly
snacks.
ate. Look. I'm real quick.
There's some yogurt left.
Yogurt, beef jerky,
It's gone.
marshmallows,
Marshmallows.
Pop-Tarts.
You know, it sounds it's
Jelly
all
beans are
lined up
almost
like a
gone.
wall. Like, don't
Yeah,
touch
she-
me.
she did mine.
You should have taken a picture of it and put it on Facebook.
Ken,
I will.
thank you for stepping up to co-host. You'll be back doing this again. I like how you keep your mouth shut. I'm joking. John, thank you very much. I've been waiting for you. I
Thanks for having me.
came to you soon or early about this, and then it presented itself way sooner than I was planning on having you. So,
okay.
serious, thank you. I appreciate it. I think we helped some people tonight. Other than that, you know what? I got to talk and be an idiot until I can reach that end button. So, to the audience, I really appreciate you guys. And I'm going to keep talking all loud and stupid while I kill the show, because I'm just doing this for the first time with no producer in the house.